Thank you, Parul University, the organizers, the entire staff, management. What a wonderful university. It's impossible for me to comprehend that there can be 43,000 students in a campus. And is it peaceful? Is this campus peaceful? Yeah, looks like. Because when I used to study, more than 100 students was like a nightmare. So you must be doing something really, really great and engaging them in studies. That's why it looks peaceful. Wonderful energies. Once again, I want to thank and congratulate brilliant talent, all the young people who were dancing and performing. It's very rare to find students involved in doing what they are doing. And that's the complaint of all the parents in this modern world of social media. But I was looking at each and every face, and I must confess, every single student was so energetic, was so involved and engaged in what they were doing. They were not bothered about me, because normally I go to lots of events. What happens is they are always looking at the guests and they are worrying about the response of the guests. Here they didn't even care whether I was there or not there. They were enjoying so much. And I think that's where lies all creativity. I think that's where the real success lies. Though I am asked to speak to you for 30-40 minutes, I must also tell you that I have been coming to Vadodara in last 40 years. My elder sister got admission in 4 or 5 different universities, and some in north, some in south and east. But my parents, my father was also a professor. So he said, now the only city I trust to send my daughter alone is Vadodara. And I was given the responsibility of dropping her here and settling her in the hostel in MS University. And since then, I have been here many times, especially to colleges and university. So thanks for inviting me here, Ketki, to this wonderful city, which I really love. The people and the food, of course. Okay, so first of all, you heard lots of introductions about me. All of them were wrong. Because when people start labeling you with a designation or qualify you saying, oh, he's an industrialist, or he's a successful industrialist, or he's a very good student, or he's a filmmaker, the problem is they are narrowing you. They are cutting your wings. And therefore, I never ever see myself as anybody. I always carry this very deeply in my mind that actually I'm a nobody. I still look at myself as a boy, a small town boy from middle class family who grew up in a lot of scarcity. And I want to explore everything, I want to see everything, I want to experience everything. So today, next few minutes or 20-30 minutes, what I want to share with you is not how to make movies. Because for that, you have this great institute where they are going to teach you how to make films. I am not even going to talk about what is success, how to be successful, because nobody knows what is success. If running after some metal cars and some mortar and brick houses and little fame, your name being printed in newspapers or 100 people running after you, if that is success and if that is what you want in life, you are doomed. You are doomed because you are running after a very, very temporary thing. There is nobody in this world who is born successful and died successful. People who are born successful die very unsuccessful. So what I want to share with you is, all of you look like very middle class, small town people. None of you looks like very, very privileged. Anybody who's born with, what is it called, silver spoons? Raise your hands. Not money-wise, but does everything come easy to you? Okay, how many of you are struggling with what you want to be in your life? Raise your hands. Oh, great. So everybody. So my hand comes here. And how many of you are here genuinely? Think before you raise your hand. Think, and please do it honestly. How many of you here are creative people? Acha. So this is not even 10%. So 90% of you believe that you are not creative people. Why? Can anybody tell me? Did you raise your hand? You raised your hand? No. Why do you think you're not creative? Can someone tell me? Okay. Try to understand something. It's a very big scam in this world that we have told some people that you are creative. And we have told most of the world that you are not creative. And therefore you should be an engineer or a doctor or a chartered accountant. When you think of a chartered accountant, do you ever think you're talking to a creative person? Never. But somebody who sings, you say, what a creative person. Somebody who dances, you say a creative person. But what's the big deal in dancing and singing? They are skills. They are all mathematics. There are 7 notes and few steps. Anybody can learn after a few days. It's like swimming. You learn swimming. You learn strength training. You can also learn singing and dancing. Singing and dancing are not creative things. They are skilled art forms. Art does not mean creative. And this is where the problem of this world lies. The reason this world is so mediocre, because if you see, everything is designed basically to have obeying, loyal soldiers. Now, IT engineers or software engineers. This world, the entire system of this world is created to find the best soldiers who do not rebel, who don't think so much, and who are always busy fighting the wars now in front of your computer. Look at the life of anybody today in the modern world. You wake up, you open your eyes, and you are instantly start behaving like a slave to somebody else. But let me tell you, there is nobody in this world who is not born creative. The greatest gift of God to human beings is creativity. And what is creativity? Why animals are not creative and human beings are creative? What is that one thing that human beings are creative and animals are not? Though despite having the same kind of digestive system, lungs, heart, eyes, ears, everything. They also have brains. Even animals have the language. Now it is proven beyond doubt that animals also have a language and they communicate with each other. So it cannot be just language. What is it? What is this faculty which makes human beings creative and not animals? Can somebody tell me? Okay, it's the power of imagination. We can imagine, even a 1 hour young baby can imagine. Human beings can imagine. But when you imagine, you can imagine anything. And tell me, why would a zamindar or an employer or an industrialist would want his labor force to imagine? If they start imagining, they will start doing things differently. And therefore, the first thing powerful people did, that they created an education system. I'm sorry, I'm standing in a university and talking like this, but we created an education system which is just geared to kill your creativity and to make you a loyal, obeying servant. And today in the world of social media, people can say, who's Vivek Agnihotri? It's his personal thought. This is not correct. And before we get into argument, let's talk about the world's most respected, which nobody challenges in this world, an institution called NASA. Have you heard of NASA, everybody? American, the aerospace agency, which launches all the rockets, which send the first person to the moon, NASA. But if you don't know, NASA also does a lot of research. And the NASA's only objective is to pick up the most creative talent in the world and get them. So what they did as a long-term strategy, they conducted a huge research, very huge, one of the biggest research. They said, why don't we tap the creative energies right at the beginning? So they interviewed thousands and thousands of 5-year-old kids to find out how many of them were creative geniuses. They said, we will pick up creative genius. And how many on the opposite side are creative duffers, which means the children who are not creative. And creative genius means children who are creative. And when they finish this research, you'll be shocked and surprised to know what were the results. Can anybody guess? No, I'm sure you can't. 98% of 5-year-old children before going to school were creative geniuses. And 2% children who were not creative geniuses were handicapped. They were autistic or they had some kind of mental or physical problem. Therefore, they couldn't coordinate. They had motor and coordination problems. Therefore, they couldn't express their creativity. With this was a new information which came to the world for the first time. Even the parents couldn't believe that their children were creative geniuses. Imagine if NASA conducts a research and aapko aisa lagta ho, my child is not very creative, doesn't paint, doesn't sing, doesn't write, he's always busy with numbers or he's making some electrical things. Sir, ye to engineer banega, he's not creative. And suddenly NASA comes and says, hey mother, your child is a creative genius. So they also got fascinated and they said, why don't we do this research after 5 years on the same kids when they are 10-year-old? So they conducted the same parameters and questionnaire with the same students when they were 5-year-old, which means they had 5 years of education. And by this time, 70% kids were, approximate numbers I am telling you, must be 68 point something. So almost 70% kids were creative genius and 30 became creative duffers. Then they conducted the same, exactly the same, on the same parameters when they were about 15-year-old in their high school. And now, only 30% students remained creative genius, 70% became creative duffers. Then they got more excited and they said, now we should conduct when they are passing out, when they are 20-year-old. So then they conducted again after 5 years when all these kids were 20-year-old, out of college, ready to join the workforce. Now guess what were the numbers? Exactly the opposite. Now 98% same students were creative duffers, only 2% were creative genius. What does it say about this world? It tells you you're not creative. If you're not participating in an annual function, your teachers or parents will say, "Ye creative nahi hai." If somebody draws a stupid horse with few colors, parents say, "Dekho mera bachcha kitna creative hai." You have to understand that's art. That's not creativity. That's art. Creativity is your imagination. What you imagine, and that's what you become. But you are stopped from imagining. You are stopped from disrupting the status quo. And that's why today the world is full of destructive energies and not creative energies. I realized it a bit late in life. But once I realized, and I said, we have the power of imagination. If you have the power of imagination to change the world, then you can use the same imagination to change your life, yourself. When I came to Bombay, I was always in advertising, but when I came to Bombay, by coincidence, I got into feature filmmaking. It's not that it was my dream or it was my objective. It just happened I was making ad films. Somebody asked me to do some television, and I did some television. I made a telefilm. Then some producer said, why don't you make a feature film out of it? And that's how I got into it. And luckily, for almost 2 years, I had written a film called Arambh. And we signed Nasiruddin Shah and Rajit Kapoor for that. It was on Bofors. So it's not that I've just started making political films. My first film was on Bofors. So I wanted to start with political films. But nobody let me make it. For 2 years, we sat with them, signed stars, we did workshops, passed time, but that film never happened. Then suddenly somebody met me, and that time there was a very famous film called Usual Suspects, English film. He said, why don't you make this into a feature film? I said, but, why would anybody do that? They said, because it's made in Hollywood, that's why every goddamn star will do it. And they were right. I had heard about big stars that they listen to scripts and they're so choosy about their characters and blah, 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 blah. It took me just 10 days to cast everybody in Chocolate, Anil Kapoor, Sunil Shetty, Irfan Khan, Imran Hashmi, Arshad Warsi. Everybody came on board just by looking at a DVD. They did not even see it. Right? And that's exactly how my second film was made goal. So what you hear, आजकल मैं script पढ़ रहा हूँ, थोड़ा busy हूँ, forget it. It's a myth. People don't do that because people don't have confidence in themselves. Everybody wants to do something which has been done before. Everybody wants a reference point. Why do we want reference points? Because we are told that you cannot create. You don't have the power to bring something new to this world. You don't have the power to look at the same problem from a totally different new angle. And that's why if you say something which is not socially or politically acceptable, then everybody is going to point fingers at you and they'll say you are not the right person. Who's the right person? Who's partying with you? Who's part of the same mediocrity? Who promotes your mediocrity and you promote his or her mediocrity? All that club is very happy with you. I could see that. And that's when I realized that what's the purpose of my life? Why am I here? Why am I in the film industry? It's not a comfortable industry. In advertising, I really had greatest of the times. Why am I struggling here with uneducated stars and producers who know nothing about the world? So I said, did I come here to tell stories which people want to hear? Everybody likes comfortable stories because it validates your stupidity. If your mind is fed with stupid ideas and somebody tells you, it's a wonderful idea, you will start trusting that person. In fact, he is your destroyer. He is destroying you. But you start trusting him because nobody told us that you have that power to look at things differently. And that's when I said the objective of my life is not to tell stories which people want to hear. I want to tell stories which only I can tell, nobody else can tell, which only I know best. And what do I know? How do I say I know best? If both of us, if all of us are looking at this thing, then how can there be any other story? And that's where the beauty of story lies. Every single person, do you believe that every single person on this earth has a different fingerprint? Do you believe in this? Don't daro nahi, sachai. It's not a trap question. I'm not going to trap you. Like everybody has a different thumb impression. Like if you love somebody, your child or your father or your boyfriend, even in a crowd of 10,000, if I show you a photograph or a video of 10,000, 1 million people, just by looking from the back, you can identify the person you love with the body language. Because everybody has a different body language. Everybody has unique expressions. Everybody laughs. But if I take a picture, then everybody's laughter is different. We are gifted with unique expression, which only you can have that expression. Nobody else in this world can express something the way you can express. That is you. That's your voice. But we are told, we are trained, when teacher walks in, hello madam, hello teacher, hello. We are asked to succumb to the authority. We are trained like that. We are made to be fearful people. And that's why if you see, everybody in this world is trying to impress somebody else. 99% of the work which is called or passed on as creative work is basically to impress somebody. Producer and directors are trying to impress the star. Star is trying to impress his own fan base. It's a pool like everybody meets and they are talking to each other and saying, wah, 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 wah. Kya baat hai, kya baat hai. I'm not against that. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I don't belong there. I do not belong there. And I pray for you that you also do not belong there. So I said, the purpose of my life is not to impress others. The purpose of my life is to express myself. And that's when I mentally resigned from this so-called mindset called Bollywood. Bollywood is not an office or a factory where you go and work 9 to 5. You'll find lots of people saying, oh, I work in Bollywood or Bollywood. There's nothing called Bollywood. But there's a mindset which will go to any extent to impress others with lies, fake expressions, stupid ideas. That's where I said I have to disrupt the system. And I resigned from this. You won't believe me. There I made a film called Hate Story, which became such a big hit that T-Series, a very big production house, they said, I will make 3-4 franchise. We'll make part 2, part 3, part 4. They gave me lots of money and vulgar amount of money. In fact, everything I wanted, the apartment, car, money. I took something, then I returned it. I said, no, I have to stop this. I don't want to get trapped in this mediocrity. And I resigned. John is sitting here, and I wrote a very small film. Very small film. It was called 12 at that time. I wanted to make it in one room with 12 people solving something related to socio-political situation of India. Nobody cared about it. Some people came with money. They ran away. Then finally, I left Bombay and I started teaching in management institutes. I came to IIM Ahmedabad and all those places. And in one chance workshop in Indian School of Business in Hyderabad, some students told me they wanted to make a documentary on the Naxal issue. And I said, you are future CEOs of the world. Why do you want to make a documentary with your own money which you are going to see? Why don't you raise funds? Tomorrow you are going to be an entrepreneur, raise funds. And within no time they raised funds, but they were not trained people. They thought 1 crore is a huge amount and they raised 1 crore in one weekend. And they said, here is the money, why don't you make a feature film out of this? I was making huge films with big stars, you know. I had no idea how to make a film. I mean, if you're making a 100 crore film and somebody tells you, okay, now you make 1 or 2 crore rupee film, how can you do that? But that one challenge in my life changed my life. And now I can say, yes, I succeeded in what I set out to achieve. We made that film. There's a book, my book called Urban Naxals. You can read how I made the film. I think it's a great motivational, inspirational book, very philosophical book. It's not a political book like people want to portray it. Just read it and you'll understand that why you are not being able to do what you want to do. This book is my struggle with how society stops you from doing what you are actually meant to do. What's the purpose of your life? Nobody wants you to accomplish that. That film was stuck for 6 years. Because A, nobody in Bollywood understood what it was all about. Second thing, if they understood, they said, oh my God, it's against us. We cannot release this film. And the third problem was that nobody cares about small budget films. And 90% of small budget films get stuck and they are canned. Because this world slowly has become everything about big, big, huge. If you see in Bollywood, the general topic is you go with any film. Ketki is sitting here, she knows. You take the greatest of the ideas and they'll say, let's make it big. You go to any star, they say, let's make it big. Everybody, they think like by making it big, you'll make something great. But what's the point of making such big, huge, great things? 100 crore, 1,000, now to 1,000 crores. Oh my God. 1,000 crores, 1,500 crores. But then after 10 days, nobody remembers, nobody cares. It has not impacted even one soul. It is the way you go inside, exactly the way you come outside. Then what's the point of spending 3 years and 4 years of your life making something? If you just go to laugh and to be entertainment, the biggest lie which is going to destroy future generations has been given to this country by Bollywood. Entertainment is the biggest lie on this earth. Only somebody who is not creative, who cannot imagine, will say something like this. What is entertainment? Then why shouldn't I go to circus? That is also entertainment. वो बंदर जो मदारी जो बंदर को नचाता है, सास से बोलो ससुर क्या जाएगा कि नहीं, वो सब करता है, वो भी तो एंटरटेनमेंट है. वो जो लड़की चलती है रस्सी पे, वो भी तो एंटरटेनमेंट है. Then why cinema? Why do you pay $300 for cinema? What makes cinema different from all these entertainments? एक आदमी चल रहा है, केले के छिलके पे फिसल जाता है, वो भी तो एंटरटेनमेंट है. You see how they have destroyed your ability to even appreciate good things. जैसे जेल में या माफिया में आप देखिए, वो बच्चों को धीरे धीरे ब्राउन शुगर देन कोकेन चटाते हैं. They don't even know they are doing anything wrong. You have been slow poisoned. You have been given this brown sugar called entertainment. India is the only country, only film industry in the entire world which makes a genre which is called mindless comedies. सोचिए जरा आप इसके बारे में. मैं कहूं, okay, Ketki, please invite me to a huge audience of mindless people. How can you even think of making something mindless comedy? Comedy is the most difficult genre to make. Even if you give me $1 billion, I'll say, no, Baba, मैं नहीं बना सकता हूं. How do you make people laugh and still get message? Is Three Idiots is also comedy? Is it a mindless comedy? No. When 5 jokers sit down and they say, let's create circus, that's when you have mindless comedy. Second thing, all these critics and the so-called intellectuals, they say, film kaisi hai? How do they write reviews? Leave your brains at home. Isn't it? आपने पढ़ा होगा, leave your brains at home and then you will love this film. Recently, huge film came, 1,000 crore, 2,000 crore. Every critic wrote, you will love this film if you leave your brains at home. After all, there is your favorite star in it. This is insulting you. I feel very insulted, do you? Or you have been numbed. Or you've forgotten what is good and what is bad. The power of cinema is to change the world. The world you want to live in, the world you want to create for yourself can be created with the help of cinema. Cinema has that power. Cinema, the power of cinema, if you want to know, read the history of this world. World War II without cinema wouldn't have been possible. It was created with cinema. And how did it end? With cinema. CIA invested some $200 billion in Hollywood, and they said, you go and become soft power and convince the world that the world war is wrong. The reason we do not respect cinema in this world, in this country especially, is because we said, mind, leave your brains at home. So first, the people who are making it, they leave their brains at their home. And after that, they ask audience to do the same thing. I said, I'm not going to do that. I refuse to be part of such a mediocre system. I want to attract creative energies. And therefore, when Buddha in a traffic jam after 6 years, everybody refused to release. And I decided to leave Mumbai and go back to my small town. And I said, I'll start teaching there. I'll be happy. We have our own home, so I didn't have to rent another house. It was very dark in Bombay. It was raining. When it rains in monsoon, sometimes it gets very gloomy and dark. My office is next to the sea, and nobody used to come to my office because I had nothing to do. I was unemployed, so I was painting. I paint. And in that moment when I was painting, I said, wait, why do I have to go back? I can't be a quitter. Just because I've shot something with the camera and it's on a film doesn't mean that I have to release it only in theaters. How do I know it? Suppose I am the only person in this world and I have a story and I make it somehow happen and nobody tells me this has to be shown in a theater. What will I do? I'll show it to wherever my audience is, the people who want to hear it. I said, break this paradigm. I said, it's a story. I have to tell this story to people. So why not take it to students? And then I started traveling with that film, colleges after colleges, universities after universities. One good guy from Baroda helped me. Therefore, I could travel. I have zero money with me. I was bankrupt, broken, indebted. Suddenly, that film found voice. First time Buddha in a traffic jam said that in universities, professors are recruiting bright students to become Naxals, armed militants in Bastar. It was a very revolutionary thought. But slowly, we started seeing with our own eyes. What happened in 2016 in JNU, then Jadavpur University, in many other universities, then Bhima Koregaon. The reality of Naxalism coming to urban areas was something that people were seeing with their own eyes. But if you say this person is an urban Naxal, तो ये कहेंगे तो propaganda कर रहा है, तो government का चमचा. But the problem of Naxal did not start now. The uneducated, ill-informed or misinformed or ignorant people think like that. It started in 1960s. And they have killed people all across, from Congress, from Tamil Nadu, in Jharkhand, in UP, in Bihar, in Punjab, Akali Dal. They have not cared for anybody. Anybody who says urban Naxals do not exist, someday when some dear one you will lose, then you will realize. It's like saying terrorists are not bad people. Which other country in the world you have for 50, 60 years, people with guns and not one or two or 10, in lakhs and lakhs, roaming around, and nobody says nothing to them. In fact, we protect them. Lots of intellectuals say, नहीं, वो तो dissent है उनकी. क्या dissent है? जिसके हाथ में बंदूक है और बच्चों को मार रहा है, उसकी क्या dissent है? It was a very bold film. But that film changed my life forever. It gave me the power to realize that if you speak truth, the support comes from unknown quarters. And the entire youth got mobilized. It helped me write a book called Urban Naxals, which ultimately became one of the most used and popular term, to the extent that even the government of India used it in Supreme Court to file their affidavit. And recently, you will not believe it, in 2 or 3, some of the biggest newspapers of the world, this term has been picked up, not in India's context, in their own context. And Urban Naxal, that book, became the largest selling book ever. Even after 5 or 6 years, this book sells more than newly launched books, which means somewhere people are connecting with it. And what is it that people are connecting with? Because I was not trying to impress anyone. I was just expressing the truth the way I saw it. On the same subject, if you write your own voice, that book will also be a big hit. Then we made a film called The Tashkent Files. That film probed the death of India's second Prime Minister's controversial death. Everybody, right from day one till the release, refused to even acknowledge that film. People refused to distribute it. Everybody said, how these 9 old people, Mithun Chakravarti, kabhi star the, abhi to he's an old man, you know. Who wants to see Mithun Chakravarti? At that time, Pankaj Tripathi wasn't so big in 2018. कौन इन ugly बुढ़े लोगों को देखेगा. I said, but the film is not about them. Film is about Lal Bahadur Shastri. Then one very big studio, multinational studio of course, and their top guy told me, yeah Vivek, nobody knows Lal Bahadur Shastri in this country. Ask any young student, they don't know. Ask anybody. He called 3-4 people from his office. He said, hey, you know Lal Bahadur Shastri na? Ha, he was a freedom fighter. He said, do you know that he was the Prime Minister of India? The people working in that company didn't know. And they make cinema, and then they give lessons to people how to make cinema. I said, I won't take his name, he's a senior guy. I said, listen, the reason your people do not know about Lal Bahadur Shastri, I can guarantee this is the reason why people would want to know about Lal Bahadur Shastri. No song, no location, nothing. 9 people just discussing. And it's not they were discussing about emotional things. They were talking about a very intellectual, complex political thing. When it came to release, nobody let me release that film. Even the studio who was helping me at that time, they said this film, we'll do a technical release. The film released in 175 screens. Along with that came a film of, obviously, the king of Bollywood, Karan Johar's film called Kalank. That released in 5,000 screens. You look at this, log oppression or oppressor ki baat karte hain. People talk about whole lot of things these days unnecessarily, but this is how this establishment works. Being anti-establishment does not mean always being anti-government. Anti-establishment means that first you raise voice against the establishment you work in. Nobody from Bollywood questions the corrupt establishment of Bollywood, but all of them take great pride in questioning everybody else. ये ऐसा क्यों है, वो ऐसा क्यों है, वो ऐसा क्यों है? आप बोलो तो कहते हैं, this is my dissent, this is my free speech. What happens to free speech when films after films after films are not being allowed to release? Only few people who are very, very powerful, they can maneuver and manipulate the system whichever they want. Just see, film called the Tashkent Files about the death of the second Prime Minister of India got 175 screens. And a film which has no basis, a fake history, absolutely fake history which never existed, 5,000 screens. This is where the problem lies. But Kalank came, went. Avengers came next week, went. Next week, Ajay Devgan's film came, went. Then came Student of the Year. I don't know why it's called Student of the Year. I've never seen any student like this in this world. That also came and went out. But Tashkent Files from 175 screens grew to 200 screens, 250 screens, 400. Slowly it kept growing. It ran for 120 days. It made 7 times more than the money which was invested. And every single person, when I say it, trust me, every single person. So nobody can escape and say, नहीं मुझे तो पहले से विश्वास था ये लड़का एक दिन कुछ बनेगा. Not like that. मोहल्ले में होते ना कई लोग, जब लड़का से पहले तो गाली देते हैं उसको, जब सक्सेसफुल हो जाता है. मैंने एक बार तो बोला था बेटा तुमसे ऐसे कि जो नालायक लड़के होते हैं कई बार बड़े सक्सेसफुल होते हैं. But not even one person ever helped me or encouraged me. And trust me, everybody said this film won't work. ये तो इतनी वर्बोस फिल्म है. जैसे भगवान ने उनको बोला है वर्बोस फिल्म बनाना पाप है. इतने डायलॉग वाली फिल्म कैसे चल सकती है? इसमें तो कोई स्क्रीन प्ले नहीं है, इसमें तो कोई स्टोरी नहीं है. पीपल आर सिटिंग एंड टॉकिंग, जैसे अभी हमारा आप बात कर रहे हैं. इसमें स्टोरी कहां है, स्क्रीन प्ले कहां है? एंड दैट फिल्म won national award for best screenplay and dialogue. And in the end, I'll just tell you about something which is very important. I generally don't share, if you see my work, I don't share my personal stories, but great audience, and that's why I'm doing it. Let me tell you, it was very difficult to cast anybody in Tashkent Files. A lot of actresses, Shweta ka jo role tha, lot of big actresses came, they said yes, then they said, अरे ये political है, इसमें नहीं पढ़ते, कहाँ ये वो, politics में नहीं पढ़ते. क्यों नहीं पढ़ते? 24 घंटे तो आप पॉलिटिक्स की बात करते हो, आपका व्हाट्सएप पॉलिटिकल मैसेज के फॉरवर्ड पे है, आप 24 घंटे या तो गवर्नमेंट की तारीफ करते हो, उनको गाली देते हो, मोदी हाय हाय बोलते हो, या आप मोदी वाह वाह बोलते हो। आपकी लाइफ में ऐसी कौन सी चीज है पॉलिटिकल नहीं है? 24 घंटे तो आप बॉलीवुड में बैठ के पॉलिटिक्स ही करते हो, इसका करियर खराब करो, उसका उठाओ, इसका बनाओ, इस स्टार के बच्चे को अंदर करो, उस स्टार के बच्चे को खराब करो। फिर पॉलिटिक्स से क्यों डरते हो? मुझे कभी समझ में नहीं आया। एंड actors who are this new breed of actors who say I won't work because I don't agree with your ideology। मैंने कहा यहां तो हिस्ट्री रही है इस इंडस्ट्री में ऑपोजिंग आइडियोलॉजी वालों के काम करने की। शोले was written by a hardcore communist Javed Akhtar। Amitabh Bachchan, who was a Congressy, he acted in it। Dharmendra, who was always right wing, was in that। Jaya Bahaduri, who is now in Samajwadi Party, was acting in it। What are you telling me? That was the greatest hit of this country। ये सब झूठ है, ये सब झूठ है। Some incompetent people are trying to brainwash you in thinking that politics is a bad thing। If politics is a bad thing, then correct it। Have the courage to correct it। You have cinema with you, you have the power। Now I am going to talk about the Kashmir files। And this next 5 minutes you will understand where you want to belong। Now Kashmir, it's not that I was born thinking one day I'll make the Kashmir files। It's not that we started saying we'll make a super duper hit film, and that film has made difference to other people, that it's a blockbuster, has not made even 1% difference to me। In fact, whatever I used to do, I've stopped doing because now I don't care। How Kashmir files happened? I was in Houston, one Kashmiri Pandit doctor one day asked me, he said, Vivek ji, you have made a film like the Tashkent files, why don't you make something on us, Kashmiri Pandits? I said, what about you? He said, our genocide। I said, हाँ, पर आप लोग का क्या है, इधर उधर घूम रहे हो सब जगह, कोई ऐसा तो नहीं है, who will be interested? He said, Vivek ji, if you won't make it, then nobody will ever know the pain, our pain in the world। And that set me thinking। I said, if Tashkent files can generate so much of trust in a community, let me study it। And then I said, okay, rather than reading books and newspapers, everything can be biased, let's do one thing। First, let's just do video testimonials of, like prisoners of war, like after World War they did, just record the first generation victims। And first generation victim का मतलब ये है कि आपके सगे माँ बाप या भाई बहन किसी के साथ कुछ गड़बड़ हुआ, और गड़बड़ मतलब ये नहीं कि किसी ने पत्थर मार दिया हो, means somebody was killed or raped or cut or something like that। Let's go and interview those people। So it's not that many people survived, so there are not too many people। So we said we won't call them to our place, we'll go wherever they live। And therefore we traveled, Pallavi and I, we traveled all across the world, every single continent, and wherever these survivors were, there we went to their houses and recorded their stories। We didn't know at that time whether we were going to make a documentary or write a book। मैंने पल्लवी से बोला, अगर कुछ नहीं होगा एक किताब तो लिख सकते हैं, पर चिंता मत करो जो भी है। And we made। Nobody came to support, every studio said। In fact, just to tell you, one of the greatest OTT platforms of the world, #1 of the world, all of you know it, so they told me they wanted to buy this film when we announced it। They wanted to buy it। Their CEO also came to my office just to meet me, and they said हमें film दो, film दो। फिर बाद में जब उन्हें story पता चली, तो they said, if you are going to talk about terrorism, then is it possible that we use both the communities for terrorism? I said, why? They said, it's our global policy। I said, sorry, thank you, we'll do it on our own। And therefore we started our own journey and we made this film। We had no idea that once this film comes out, the biggest opposition is going to come from Bollywood। The whole thing started when some people in Bollywood started raising voice against the film। So let's hear at some realities of the film. It was made for 15 crores. Almost 90% of the actors refused to act in it. Why? There's a lived reality, a reality which everybody knows, but nobody wanted to be part of that. Why I'm telling you this, that people who talk about truth and love and harmony and all those fancy things, when it comes to actually facing the truth, nobody wants to become part of it. Everybody said, don't make this film, you won't be alive after making this. Why? Spielberg never had to think like that if I make a film on Nazis, then somebody is going to kill me. So which means this concept of humanity is selective. My humanity versus your humanity. When Mission Kashmir came, when Haider came, when Fiza came, when Fana came, and umpteen numbers of these films which came, all the films were set in 90s, late 80s and 90s. Try to remember all those films. All of them are set in 80s and 90s, early 90s and late 80s. Not even one film has even used the word Pandit. As if Kashmiri Pandits never lived there. And all the films have justified terrorism indirectly. तो terrorist बेचारे के साथ उठा ले गई आर्मी, उसके बच्चे का रेप हो गया था किसी बेटी का, इसलिए वो terrorist बन गया. This is what we have been fed. Somewhere we became numb to the most inhuman thing called terrorism. And if this logic is true, that it happened on all the sides, a lot of people say that, why don't you show both the sides? Which film has shown both the sides in the world? How will you make a film if you are showing both the sides of the world? If you are making a film on rape, will be a story of a rapist or a victim? Can India-Pakistan war be shown both the sides? Can America-Russia war be shown both the sides? In Sholay, is it possible to show Thakur's side also? Shekhar Kapoor met me in London and he said a wonderful thing. He said, Vivek, I am so lucky I made Bandit Queen. At that time, today, they would have forced me to show Thakur's side also. Quote unquote, Shekhar Kapoor told me this. I mean, if people think that every film industry person is against the film. A lot of people say it's an anti-Muslim film. So I want to tell you a few things. This film is produced by a Muslim. The CEO of Z is a Muslim. This film, all the production, direction, the entire team was of Muslims, not Muslims from here, but Muslims from Kashmir. All young boys and girls. The Hindu characters of the kid, वो जो बच्चा कृष्णा बना है छोटा, वो मुस्लिम लड़का, बच्ची है वो. और जो हिंदू थे वो मुस्लिम्स हैं. And look at the greatness of that film. Nobody knows it, but I must tell you. मैं जब वहाँ शूट करता जो कश्मीरी लड़के थे, some of them were like part of soft militancy, but not anymore. तो मैंने उन लड़कों से ये बोला, इस फिल्म में एक सीन मैं चाहता हूँ which you write. You write. It has to be your voice, exactly what you want to write. I promise you I won't change a full stop and comma in that. And the most interesting scene, when Krishna Pandit, जिनने फिल्म देखी है वो जानते होंगे, when Krishna Pandit goes to Kashmir in that shikara with a boy when he's traveling, जो लड़का उससे कहता है, बताओ वो कौन सा जानवर है जो सबको खा जाना चाहता है, कश्मीर. कहता है तुम्हारे पास तो मीडिया है, तुम्हारे पास तो एटम बॉम्ब है, हमारे पास नहीं है, तुम्हारे पास मीडिया है इसलिए तुम्हें बदनाम करते हो, हमारे पास मीडिया नहीं. All those dialogues have been written by an ex-militant Kashmiri Muslim boy. I have shot it as is. And I am asking very, see, this is how I am, don't mind it, I am not against anybody, मैं सरस्वती को मानता हूँ, I swear मैं किसी के against नहीं हूँ, but I am against hypocrisy. All these people who made all these Mission Impossibles, Fina, Faza, Haider and all these films, ask them, did they ever bother to take one Kashmiri Pandit's point of view? Now tell me, who's making propaganda films? And if I'm making a propaganda film, it's a propaganda of Indians, not of terrorists. Their films are propaganda of terrorists. We have given blood and sweat to bring this 4 fatwas were issued in my name when I was shooting there. And people who have made pro-terrorism films, what are they doing? They are going to film festivals, enjoying life. And here, for last 1 year, I have not been allowed to go out with my children. I can't go to public places. I can't go and eat golgappe. I can't do anything. I'm in a jail. I'm in a prison in my own country to talk about our history. And those who say कि इतने ही लोग मरे थे, अरे आज रात को 12 बजे आपके घर में आग लग रही हो, will you go and write an FIR or you'll run away? And if it is true that there was killings of other side also, then tell me one thing, why 100% of Kashmiri Pandits live outside Kashmir and not even one Kashmiri Muslim lives outside Kashmir? If they live, they are out of choice. Nobody was forced. Do you know at that time, the worst place to go was police station. That's why nobody went to police station. 50 out of 100 murders and rapes, which we recorded, took place because those people went to police station. And you want to understand the power of truth and films? I'll end by telling you 2-3 instances. Forget about thousands and lakhs of people what it did. I don't care about box office. This is the worst thing to even think about. In film, I have shown 2 instances. One is B.K. Ganju's, whose father was B.K. Ganju, who was shot in a rice drum. The first scene of the film. And the last scene of the film is about Girja Devi, who was cut alive in saw machine. It's not that I made up that story. It's everywhere in the world. The whole Kashmir knows. In fact, Kashmiri Muslim people told me about that story. They have written about books about it. The ignorant people in Bollywood don't know, that's their problem. I received letters from both the families, B.K. Ganju's as well as Girja Devi's families. I'll just give you the essence. I put it on social media also now. Okay, so it's all available. You can see the letters there. And they said for 30 years, especially the Girja Devi's story, their family wrote to me and they said for 30 years, we never spoke about Didi as if she was never born. Then I was forced to see this film. That night, we called our entire family, we spoke on Zoom, and we cried the entire night. And now our family has started healing, thanks to this film for healing our family. Films cannot just bring truth out, they can also heal people. They can change people. In US Congress, in Capitol Hill, we were invited. So many senators and congressmen, they took note of the film, and we got so many resolutions passed in different states. They acknowledged for the first time of this genocide of Kashmir. UK Parliament, human rights societies. Now I'm invited in September to Human Rights Conference in Geneva, UNO, because of this film. Films can change policies. Films can change international relations. Films can be the soft power of a country, and with that mission, I'm making my films. After Kashmir Files, what? Every single production house in Bombay called me, and they keep calling me. Every single star, except for 2 or 3 stars, almost every star calls me, and they want to do films with me. Bollywood knows only one thing, how to be successful, how to earn money. So if you make money, everybody will fall on your feet. The world knows, I can tell you name. They said, take 200 crores, take 150 crores. The biggest studio, I was telling her, they said, make as many films as you want, but give us first right to refusal. Means, if we say no, then and you make outside whatever money you want. And what we decided to do? What we decided to do? We got very small amount. People who think film did 350 crores, so I must be like swimming in Indian currency. That's not true. Z was the major partner. There was another partner. We got a very small amount. That doesn't matter. But whatever money we got, that money, we said we are not going to make these huge films just because this film is successful. Our quest, our journey of exploring and discovering and exposing truth continues. So we ended up making a film called The Vaccine War. Again, when you hear this name, do you think anybody should make a film on vaccine? सबका क्या कहना है? अरे अभी तो 2 साल लोग इतना तड़पे थे कोविड में, कौन वो पुरानी बातें याद करना चाहता है? And vaccine, who is interested in science in this country? But we decided to do that. If we can bring you bad news with Kashmir Files, we can also bring you great news to you, which will make you proud of your people, of your mothers and sisters. Because when I started doing research on vaccine, how India made vaccine. Does anybody know who made this Indian vaccine? Can anybody say any name? आप सबने वैक्सीन ली है, पर आपको ये नहीं पता किसने बनाई है. आपकी लाइफ और डेथ का मामला था वो वैक्सीन, पर आपको ये नहीं पता किसने बनाई है. And if I tell you it was made by few women of India, जिसको जनरली वेस्ट में और मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड और अर्बन वर्ल्ड कहेगा ये तो एम्पावर्ड ही नहीं है, because they are not vanity conscious, they are like our grandmothers and typical Indian housewife material. And if I tell you, for 5 months they didn't go home, they were there. किसी का बच्चे को साइकोलॉजिकल ट्रॉमा हो गया जिसका इलाज चल रहा है, एक की बच्ची थी उसके आंख में प्रॉब्लम हो, इतना बड़ा ट्यूमर बन गया, इट हैड टू बी ऑपरेटेड. अगर मैं बोलूं कि अपनी लाइफ को सैक्रिफाइस करके few Indian women committed themselves to make this vaccine, should their story be celebrated in cinema or not? So we put in our money so that nobody tells us कि क्या चलता है क्या नहीं चलता है, and we made this film called The Vaccine War. And I promise you, when it comes in October, every Indian, wherever he is or she is, I promise you, it will fill your heart with, of course, appreciation, but it will also make you realize one thing, that we have got habitual of celebrating fake heroes. We do not celebrate real heroes. And if you're not scared of sacrificing these materialistic comforts of your life and friends for a party kind of people who come to you only when you are successful, and if you're willing to live with no friends, no comfortable cars, and if you are happy with yourself, and if you genuinely want to be a creative person and express yourself, let me tell you, if there is any heaven on this earth or outside this earth, it's this. Living the life of truth is far better than thousands and thousands and thousands of crores at the box office and making mindless comedies. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best.